Roger, I am wound up, so you better jump in or you won't get a word in edgewise here.
You know, Alex, I think that in a certain sense, I think the reason this documentary was green-lighted by Netflix is because they believe that the Trump presidency will be a failure, and therefore they can pin it on me. They hope to vilify me the way they vilified Karl Rove. And again, I think they know that when you say over and over again, you know, Trump is a sock puppet. Stone was pulling all the strings, which is completely untrue, that hurts you with the man. So there's an undercurrent of that. You won't find me saying anywhere in this documentary or anywhere that I am Trump's brain or that the strategy of the elected was his and not mine. Now, I do think when you work with somebody for 40 years, there is an osmosis.
You put a mark on them, and they affect you.
Well, and vice versa. I saw some things differently because of things I learned from him. I think he saw things differently than what he saw.
Sure, but they call you the greatest villain, the super villain, and then you didn't do anything. I mean, you watch this, and it's like you know what they're up to. The Clintons stealing all the money from Haiti and backing radical Islam and all the rapes and all the other crap. You never raped anybody, Roger?
No, and as you know, there's a subset of leftists now trying to push the idea that Trump is mentally incompetent, that he's insane. Let's think about that for a moment. We had a serial rapist as our president. Where were they then? They weren't talking about what a nut job Bill Clinton was then. So, I mean, he's a sex criminal. It's outrageous, but it shows the extent to which they are petrified. The president is very angry. I think he has come to the conclusion that he is being ill-served by some around him.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, here I am popping interrupting, but let's walk through that. I called you on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I said, here's my sources. Is that accurate? You said, yeah, that's really accurate, but don't quote me because I want to keep my sources, quite frankly. But you said, yes, he is angry. That part is accurate. Some heads are probably going to roll. And then I confirmed with you. The media said that was fake news, but 3 days later, it's in the New York Times on Saturday. Everything you said, I said word for word.
Well, and I can tell you right now that there was bickering in the White House staff over Abbas's meeting with the president and whether or not we were going to hold his feet to the fire on the funding of terrorism. We can never have peace between his country and ours, between his political organization and the United States, as long as he finances the murder of Jews and Christians and anyone who disagrees. We just can't do it. And the president stepped in and kind of toughened up the rhetoric, and the meeting became somewhat more confrontational. But there were,
and again, that country's
right, and there were those on the White House staff who didn't want to raise this issue, who were more interested in the photo op and making it look like we're getting along to try to beat back our critics. Well, that would have been without substance, and that's not Trump. So I actually give credit to Sean Spicer on this. He was in favor of a harder line, and the president, I think, learned of his views and agreed with them. Mr. Priebus was not for a hard line.
And again, so we have these Middle Eastern leaders coming here and others, and Trump is calling them out on the carpet, something that had been going on for a very long time. I mean, I loved his address at that university, Christian University yesterday, saying we don't worship government, we worship God, and expanding on that, going and talking about how there's a Christian genocide going on, hundreds of thousands of years by Muslims. This is happening, okay? And the left shows how deranged they are, that they literally want to ally with radical Islam because they're killing Christians. Why does the left have such a giant flaming hard-on for Christians? Why do they want us dead?
Well, and to give him credit, the president has really hung in on the repeal of the so-called Johnson Rule. The Johnson Rule was put in place by Lyndon Johnson so that preachers...
Saying Christians that are conservative have no free speech, but liberals can run around and do whatever they want.
But more importantly, preachers in Texas could not preach against him before the election. That's why he put it in place. It was all about him. And Billy Graham is the one who explained what Johnson had done to Donald Trump, and he has never forgotten it, and he's never backed off.
By the way, every time I talk to Trump, he brings it up just randomly. He says, you watch, I'm going to let Christians have free speech. You like that? You like that? I'm like, yeah, I really like that. I like everybody to have free speech. Let's come back then, Roger, talk about the president, where he's at right now, where you're at. So, Roger, let's get into Trump, the intel you've got, the intel we've got, where he is, the type of reboots, the new FBI director, other key smorgasbord.
Well, Alex, I think one of the things the president is most unhappy about is the fact that the Democrats have been much more successful in pushing the false narrative of Russian collusion in the election. And we have not been as effective at getting to the bottom of how the president was, in fact, surveilled in certain phone calls at Trump Tower. Now, you'll remember that FBI Director Comey and Admiral Rogers of the NSA both testified under oath that there was no surveillance. Well, if one phone call with Donald Trump were recorded, then they perjured themselves. We now know that there were more than one. We have not been as good. Of course, we don't have the mainstream media allies that they have, but the White House political shop has not done an effective job on this question. The president is burned up over the false narrative that the Russians helped him win the election. This makes him angry, and Alex, it should, because it's a lie. It's a distortion. It's a fantasy of the left, and it had two purposes: to distract from the corruption of the Podesta brothers and the Clintons, and also to make up for the fact that they nominated an old, tired, sick, corrupt candidate who had no energy and no ideas.
Well, plus, they'd been in the news saying, oh, we've got Trump, we got his people with the Russians, we've got them surveilled. The New York Times dozens of times in late 2016, early 2017, we covered it ad nauseum, showed the headlines. And then Comey says the president's crazy, that he thinks Obama surveilled him. Then last week it comes out, even the Associated Press said that Obama ordered thousands of Americans in the campaign surveilled for political purposes. So they've literally turned their crimes around against the president. I found it endearing that he went on TV with Holt and Lester Holt and NBC and said, listen, I did get rid of him over the leaks. I did get rid of him over the weird stuff he said about Hillary. She's super corrupt, but we can't go after her. And I am sick of the Russia. It's made up. And they go, oh, my God, that's obstruction of justice. You got rid of... No, he's saying it's bull. He's being honest. He's sick of it. And then he did ask the FBI. We all know this. Hey, look at Hillary and the uranium deals. Look at the China deals. Go after them. He knows he's not done anything, and that's why he's so angry, is he understands it's a canard, as you said, on a bunch of different shows the last week.
And you notice that Director Comey had no interest at all into looking into the corruption of the Clinton Foundation. He's too busy chasing Russian collusion.
Or the illegal server, or the pedophilia, or the...
Or Sandy Berger, or Mark Rich. This goes back a long way. He's been giving the Clintons a pass for a long time. FBI director, now this is a complicated question. I think the president needs somebody who is not in Washington, not part of the Washington buddy system. The acting director, McCabe, it would be a disaster. This is a guy who...
His wife gave $600,000 to the Democrats.
Well, no, it's twofold here.
She gave...
He first of all wanted to use taxpayer money to pay for the phony dossier on Donald Trump, and she got $700,000 through Terry McAuliffe for a state Senate race in Virginia, which was the payoff for not prosecuting Hillary, for not recommending the prosecution.
Sure, and I saw that, but then I saw reports that they've given big to Democrats.
I don't know what their wealth is, but I had researched this, and McAuliffe, of course, is he is one of the flying monkeys in the Clinton zoo.
Sure, well, let me tell you how I know the Russia thing's bull. I've followed it, I've watched it. Plus, they said I'm under criminal investigation for actually being commanded by the Russians. That's the biggest load of horse manure on the planet. I mean, it is complete abject bull.
Well, in this hearing with the...
they don't ever let us testify, do they?
Isn't that amazing that they don't... They keep saying, we want these guys to testify. In fact, Chairman Burr said he'll subpoena anybody who refuses.
Why don't we go to D.C. in the next few weeks with cameras and just try to march in and demand their offices? Like Schumer's, we're here. Testify. I mean, let's have press conferences, you name it.
I think it's a pretty good idea. They can't deal with the guerrilla politics of the movement.
But you're a famous anti-communist, and all we're trying to do is cut taxes, rebuild our military, defend our borders, kill the TPP, restore American sovereignty. If that's Russian agenda, well, then I guess that's wonderful.
But Alex, that's the whole point. I'm the perfect villain. Because I've cultivated this reputation for having sharp elbows and a rogue, the Democrats think I'll be a patsy on this. The problem is they don't have an iota of proof of Russian collusion. I don't know any Russians, And they know I don't know any Russians because they hacked my email. They have had me under surveillance.
But they never stop. So let me ask you this. Why is Trump so mad? Because it's made up. Is he just sick of it? I mean,
I think he's sick of it. Plus, he sees what really are egregious crimes over here by the Clintons that no one talks about, that they just walk away from.
Do we have any idea? I mean, I think Cornyn overall has proven to be a pretty good senator. He's a little kind of mainstream, but at the same time, I mean, who else would be a good FBI director?
I would like former New York Police Commissioner Ray Kelly. Now, I disagree with him on stop and frisk. And stop and frisk was never decided.
Didn't we run into him in Cleveland?
Yes, we did. He's a good man. But stop and frisk has never been decided by the courts. It was knocked down by the lower courts. And then New York City Mayor de Blasio never appealed. So we don't have a definitive answer.
Well, we shouldn't rise and fall on that.
It is illegal today. It is one issue, though. Looking at it overall, he's a New Yorker. He is personally close to the president, knows him well. So there's a trust there. He did a phenomenal job of taking the crime capital of the United States and turning it into one of the safest cities in America.
New York was as bad as Chicago.
So I think he would be ideal. I think he might have to be persuaded to take the job, but I think in the end he would take it if it were offered. Judge Jeanine Pirro is another more than capable former prosecutor, former judge.
Press secretary?
Kimberly Guilfoyle, I think.
Let's come back and talk about the next shoes to drop. And a lot more with Roger Stone. Mike Cernovich will have big breaking news straight ahead. We've got 3 of the most attacked people by dinosaur media right now live. Roger Stone will be co-hosting with me the next 2 days. Hell, the full 4 hours if you want to, my friend. So it's great to have you here. We got a lot of behind-the-scenes planning going on. Big documentary about you's a big hit right now. Get me Roger Stone. But let's talk about the other shoes to drop and what's happening with Spicer. Because now they've gone from Alex Jones is crazy, Roger Stone is crazy, Mike Cernovich is crazy. Yes, everything's wonderful. Spicer's not going anywhere. No shakeups. He's not mad. To now admitting all that's true, which pisses them off because they don't have the sources.
Yeah, in fact, Sean Spicer is under such public attack, I'm starting to get sympathetic to him. They're attacking him because he works for Donald Trump. Even though I don't think he is, I don't think he was the right person for this job from the beginning. I'm not sure how many people remember in September when he said if Trump doesn't get his poll numbers up, the Republican National Committee will have to suspend its financial support of his presidential candidacy. That's unheard of. That's outrageous.
And he's a choker. He chokes now and hides in the bushes.
He clearly wasn't at his desk at the right time.
Hey, they make jokes all day. I'm ready to be the White House press secretary. I'll be Guilfoyle's deputy.
Who wouldn't? But that said,
I'll crawl around on my hands and knees.
I think Sarah Huckabee Sanders has done a credible job.
She's really good.
I think she's really done a good job.
She's better than Spicer.
Well, you could say that, yes.
And I think he does some good moral stands and has his good moments, but he's let them get under his skin. And I think it's okay to get angry, but you can't let them actually freak you out.
Well, in this particular case, I think that the White House press shop needs a total overhaul. They need a more offensive operation. And their biggest single problem, Alex, is that we still don't control the government. This is Barack Obama's administration with a few top Trump people in the cabinet jobs because the chief of staff, Reince Priebus, will not instruct the individual cabinet members to say, this is who you're hiring. Assistant secretaries, deputy secretaries.
They're paralyzed because of him. So let me ask you this. How long, Little Birdie's told me that Reince Priebus is walking the plank very, very soon.
Well, that may be premature, but in trouble.
Okay, what about
in trouble for sure.
What about the word, though, that a big reboot's coming? Trump isn't sure yet, but he's definitely, trying to really overhaul things.
Well, I think he's dissatisfied with the way it's going. Frankly, the poll numbers are something that should be watched very carefully. There's a lot of elasticity here. You'll remember there were times in the campaign when he would drop in the polls and then he would immediately bounce back.
They're manipulating those, too.